Alrighty, welcome to the 143rd edition of the MMA Circus here on BloodyElbow.com. And if you're watching live on YouTube, my name is Nick Baldwin. He is Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence, and as always, we are your hosts for today. Andrew, as I say just about every time we do the show together, it's been a couple weeks. It's actually been a couple days more than a couple weeks because 2 days ago it was Boxing Day, and it was my final Christmas dinner, wrapping the holiday festivities up. Could not do the show, and you had to sacrifice your very precious Thursday evening to do the show. How is it going?
It's a going. As per your Canadian contract, we can't work on special bank holidays like Boxing Day.
And Halloween.
We're here on the Thursday. It ruins my schedule. No one ever consults me like, hey, Boxing Day. I don't give a shit about Boxing Day. I treated it like it was a normal day.
I did too, up until 2 p.m. when we went to my aunt and uncle's for another turkey dinner. But
so you do back-to-back turkey dinners?
I do. Okay, so the 22nd.
Lay it on me.
What day was that? The 22nd, last Friday.
Sure.
We did Christmas dinner at my dad's girlfriend's parents' house.
Sounds tame.
23rd, we did lunch at some place in a town close to the town where my grandparents live.
Mm-hmm.
The 24th, we did Christmas dinner on my mom's side at my house.
Okay.
The 25th, we did another Christmas dinner on my mom's side again, but at my aunt's house.
Okay.
And then the 26th, we did big Christmas dinner, turkey, again, on my dad's side at my aunt's house. And that was that.
Did you eat turkey in 3 straight nights of dinner?
No, because the 24th was Chinese food. The 25th and 6th were turkey, but the 22nd and the 23rd were both turkey. So I've had turkey 4 of the past 6 days.
Who's got the best turkey though? Be real with it. Don't drag this out for 1, and then for 2, be honest.
I'm gonna say Boxing Day. Sorry, Ma, but I'm gonna go Boxing Day.
Oh, the OG turkey makers. They know how to keep them juicy.
They sure do.
Yeah. So it got fucking freezing since we saw each other last. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's been, you're in the Arctic tundra, so it's been cold for a while for you, but it just sank in bad this week.
Really? Like, what's that?
Oh, it's 8 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, wow.
Woke up and saw that on the phone. Isn't that terrible? What's that? -4?
Let's see. 8 degrees Fahrenheit, you said?
Yep.
It's -13.
-13? Oh, it felt like it too. It was brutal. It's like when you walk around and like your nose gets, your boogers get frozen in your nostrils.
Yeah. Do you want to know what the wind chill here in Winnipeg is right now?
I'm going to guess -30 degrees Fahrenheit.
-24.
Wow. Yeah. Terrible, right? That's why it's uninhabitable there. You were telling me that it was single digits Fahrenheit for like a couple weeks. You've been DMing me and tweeting me the normal temperature readings in Winnipeg. This is actually what we do. We discuss weather regularly.
Yeah, not just on the show. This isn't just some the MMA Circus gimmick. This is our relationship.
That's all I want to know about. Basically, Nick serves as a thermostat that I have somewhere in the Arctic tundra of Winnipeg, Canada, and he's just like there to report back to me. What's it like up there? Oh, freezing and it sucks. Okay, I'll never move there.
On Christmas Day, it was -45 Fahrenheit.
I think, yeah, you were the one. You're DMing me on Christmas Eve the weather readings, and I was like, wow.
Merry Christmas to you too. So how was your Christmas? We talked about mine. How was yours?
Pretty smooth. I did the in-law thing, so we went up there and I got gifts.
Actually,
you roll with it. You just take these things in bunches. It's actually nice. They accommodate you. Usually you get fed. People don't expect for you to contribute all that much. So, how much can you complain?
I guess you can't complain too much.
Can't complain.
The reason I haven't had a significant other, I don't have to do the whole in-law thing. It's actually smart of me.
It's a benefit in so many ways.
Being
alone and lonely. It's a smart strategic play.
Alone and lonely. I don't know why we just said both alone and lonely, basically the same thing. But yeah, definitely there's some positives to it. It seems all bad, but no, you're not just in the dark. You also don't have to face the in-laws. So
that is true.
you're
No
as bright as
in-laws
you can
is
be.
a win. Yeah.
So next week we are going to do predictions and maybe some awards. I know you kind of want to shoot the award stuff down. We might do
Okay,
some.
shockingly, listeners of the MMA Circus, Andrew doesn't want to do awards because I think, of course, that awards are stupid.
Everybody does them. That's the one bad thing.
That's why they're kind of dumb. Like, what? Okay, so what's our knockout of the year, Nicholas? We're gonna have a knockout.
But what we need to do, as we talked about, what we're going to do is for awards, we're going to think of really unique ones that not everybody is talking about, not everybody and their dog and their mother and whoever is talking about. We're going to find some interesting ones, maybe some fun ones, maybe some stupid ones, probably a lot of stupid
ones. Listeners, if you want to help contribute to this, send us some ideas. You know our Twitters.
They don't know what ideas are. They know what ideas are, but
if you've been listening to this show long enough, you're aware of what ideas are.
And why I don't know what that is.
Okay. So yeah, there's that. We're gonna have that show next week.
That's not this week. That's not this week.
That's definitely not this week.
I haven't.
This week we're talking about the Rizin cards. The Rizin cards in 219. We have an action-packed weekend of mixed martial arts, people. Rizin's 2-part New Year's Eve event. It starts tonight. I'm watching it. Are you staying up late to watch it, Nicholas?
I'm going to California tomorrow, so I probably shouldn't. But we'll see.
Okay.
Because if it ends at, say, luckily I leave at 4 p.m. Central Time tomorrow, so it's an afternoon flight. It's nice. I can sleep for.
Hold on. So you're going to get on a plane after Rizin happens? Of course, watch Rizin. It's the perfect thing to do is just recover. You'll pass out on the flight the whole time.
Maybe, but I also wanted to write on the flight.
Well, there's that. What are you going to write about on the flight, Rizin?
Exactly. I either can watch it and not write about it, or not watch it and then somehow write about it.
Yeah. The journalism dilemma right there. Jesus Christ, kid.
Dilemma. Have fun or make some money.
No, you gotta watch Rizin, you know, to really soak it in.
I might
so
watch
write about it.
Because Mirko Cro Cop is fighting on the second night, right?
Dude, do this, right? If you just want to create content, like watch it, and as you're watching it, if you're like, that's a story, write it.
No, I'm not worried about. I'm not going to write about Rizin. I'm. If I'm being serious, I'm not writing about Rizin. But
yeah, the pressure to cover 219, right? You always got to push the UFC events.
Well, no, it's not me having pressure to cover the big show, but it's me not wanting to write about something after doing an all-nighter and being half asleep. I can barely watch it and do the all-nighter thing. I can't connect words together and sound smart after an all-nighter. So
basically, yeah, whenever and the first time I ever, stayed up to watch Rizin as a journalist, I didn't do any writing on it. Because, by the time it was over, I was like, oh, and I'm tired. I'm just going to go to bed.
Well, that reminds me of the UFC Soul 6th Round podcast I did with Mikey Hutchinson. I don't know if you ever saw it or heard about it. I probably told you about it before, but it was the one after the...
You did it before the Baldwin Speaks, before I did it? How dare you?
It was after the Bendo Masvidal card. Back in November 2015, UFC Seoul, South Korea, Kid Nate and Zayn Simon didn't want to do the show because the event happened overnight. People like to sleep. I don't blame them. And so me and another guy, Mikey Hutchinson, who works for Bloody Elbow, still does, stepped up. And it was bad. It was really bad. Like I stayed up all night. And then around 11 a.m. local time, did this half-an-hour podcast recapping this card, and it was just horrid. We got a lot of shit for it from the fans or haters. I think it's a better word, but looking back, it is good in hindsight because I was able to look back and say, holy shit, this was terrible. Don't do this again. Work here, improve this. But man, it was interesting.
It was interesting.
You're just saying that you've never seen it. You never heard about it.
yeah, definitely. If someone was like, after watching a action-packed UFC card and you're feeling fantastic, Andrew, would you like to hear Nicholas Baldwin? I'm like, absolutely not. Silence.
Off, mute, get out, delete.
You could be the journalist on FS1, you know, the post-fight show, and they were just like, oh, Nick Baldwin, off, boom.
That reminds me of the Rizin. Hold on, I have an ice cube in my mouth, and
great time to.
Anyways, I did that Rizin podcast with Jed Mashu last year. It was like a fight companion.
Yeah,
and it got bad too. I've had many bad podcasting experiences. You know this as a co-host of mine for 2 years.
I've been a part of many of your bad podcast experiences.
Yes, you have. Okay,
all right. Let's talk about these Rizin cards.
Let's.
Do you want to start, or do you want to start with 219?
Well, we already started with Rizin. Let's continue.
All right. It starts at 1 a.m. So, you know, be prepared for that, people. This is the biggest thing that's happening in tonight's card is the opening round of the Bantamweight Grand Prix, right? There was, well, actually, no, it's actually the second round of the Bantamweight Grand Prix. The one that, you know, they set up to basically have Horiguchi win. Horiguchi fights in the main event. He fights Gabriel Oliveira, who's a undefeated bantamweight from Brazil. Ian McCall's on this, of course. And Ian McCall is in the co-main event. You probably saw his little beef that he had with Manel Cape, who's a guy from Europe, a prospect. That looks like it's going to have some heat in it, and it's going to be fun. So you have that to look forward to. But that's going to be going off at 6 in the morning. You know, just to prepare yourselves for that. You know, so I always encourage people who say, hey, I'm not going to be able to stay up till, you know, from 1 until 6. Like, why not take a nap? You could easily wake up at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and you'll see the best parts of this show. Just throwing that out there.
It is a good point, because that's what I planned to do for the last one, and I think I just fell asleep. No, I actually did get up, I think. I don't remember. Some of these Rizin cards, like, I think it was the last one that was not really good enough to stay up for. But maybe the one before I did wake up halfway.
You're talking about the last one. I think the last one was the one that Rena headlined, right?
Maybe. They sort of all just blend together because they're up so late. You don't remember them actually. But this one, these two cards are good. Like, the year-end cards for Rizin are always usually pretty good. In general, I think Rizin, 2016 was a great year for Rizin. The end of year 2015 shows were great, but 2017 hasn't been a terrific year, I don't think, for Rizin. It's been okay, but
they've missed one key element that we came to kind of expect from the first Rizin events, and that's having the legendary Pride fighters on every card. Now, we do get Mirko Cro Cop on this card. He is on the Saturday to Sunday card. But you'd expect maybe more matchups, I guess, that were kind of that era. Also, Rizin's are relying a lot more on WMMA and selling women's MMA to a Japanese audience, and I'm not sure how much interest that garners for the overseas audience and what we're looking for from Rizin. You know,
but even just the prospects, like, we're seeing Tenshin do great things over at Rizin, but not everybody is going to stay up till 5 a.m. to watch, say, a 20-year-old Japanese kid named Tenshin, who is a great fighter. He is really talented. He's ferocious, and he's a hardcore, fan's dream fighter. But I'm not, like, I'm going to stay up to watch, like, say, Wanderlei Silva versus Mirko Cro Cop, but I'm maybe not staying up to watch Tenshin fight just yet. We're not invested in a lot of these fighters.
Yeah, especially when it's a weird kickboxing. He's in a mini kickboxing tournament. That's actually
which is actually kind of fun.
Yeah, and that's tomorrow. I actually think Saturday into Sunday's card is the best card, clearly, right? That's going to have the main event of all 3 tournament fights, because there is also the women's tournament. I think that's a 105. Yeah, or it's Japan, so it's whatever, 107. Yeah. I think that, I think that that'll be fun, but they're clearly trying to build Japanese stars. They bought Horiguchi and they're trying to be like, here's, a bantamweight star. Here's Rina. She's, the Japanese female Ronda Rousey. She has an awesome style and a great look and could definitely be a star for them. And then, you got Crow Cop, and that's a feather in the cap. There's just not too many guys from that era still fighting. Oh yeah, and Gomi too, right? So there's a bunch of things happening. I don't think it is their best effort overall. It really is missing something huge like a Wanderlei Silva fight, or even getting like a Rampage Jackson. Think about how huge that could be for Rizin.
Yep. Bellator has sort of stolen Rizin's thunder with Rizin stole a bit from Bellator, but I think Bellator stolen it back with the Heavyweight Grand Prix.
Yeah. The Heavyweight Grand Prix, it would have been the coup d'etat for Rizin. They'd become the number one promotion instantly.
So what is the better card? Let's sort of treat our preview of both cards as like what to watch, what to not watch. What are you looking out for? What should you be interested in?
In the first card, really tonight, the only thing you're probably looking forward to early is, well, Anthony Burchak's fighting, right? Everyone remembers Anthony Burchak, and he's kind of came into his own in Rizin. He's lost some fights, but he's had a fun run, I'd say. And King Rihanna. She's fighting Cindy Dandos, which is actually kind of a decent, relevant fight because they're trying to make her into a star as well. She's fighting at lightweight, so there's not too many girls who can kind of go out there and make 155 pounds. But Dandos basically isn't cutting weight for the fight, is around her size. Reina's been beating bigger women than her, not necessarily as skilled women as her. She's 7-0, and I've always thought that they're trying to, get her an eventual matchup with Gabby Garcia. Of course, there's a whole fiasco with Gabby Garcia. She's fighting, I think, like in the main card, probably the top 4 or 5 or 6 fights. She's fighting that old, and by old I mean the lady's like 54 years old, pro wrestler from Japan. She was overweight by 25 pounds at the weigh-ins, just by the way.
For what it's worth, in case it matters.
Yeah,
so that's why it's still happening, because I know Sakaki Bar ran up and said, "Hey, we might not be able to do this competition-wise," but that's just sort of like
Nicholas. Come now. This is.
I mean, I'm not surprised it's happening. I'm just sort of saying because he said it's not. No, it is maybe some confusion.
Why would you take him at his word? He's a promoter in Japan. He's part of the show.
He's also not named Dana White, so I'd like to think they can say some truth, but maybe not.
No, that would be a terrible, terrible assumption. Of course, Saki Bar is going to lie to you. It's part of the show. This is all pre-orchestrated, right? This is the pro wrestling side of it. This is, this is Rizin. The refs have microphones in their ears, So,
do you like the whole Gabby Garcia thing? Because Mike Skite from MMA Circus, I know him quite well, and he is a huge Rizin fan. He will watch he loves Japanese MMA. But the worst, according to him, the worst part of Rizin is Gabby Garcia.
Ooh, interesting.
And I actually disagree with that. I don't mind the whole Gabby Garcia shtick. She's had a rough 2017. I know there's been a number of no contests. I think she lost by DQ, or a lot of craziness has happened and not a lot of actual fighting. Mm-hmm. But I still don't mind it. Like this 200 whatever pound woman who is beating up old pro wrestlers. Like, this is what Rizin is. This is something for the Japanese audience that Americans and Canadians for whatever that is will not understand. Gabby Garcia beating up some old pro wrestler woman is something that, like, there's an audience in Japan for it. They enjoy seeing it. They want to see it. They're there for that, which I don't know what that's about, but but I'm kind of interested in seeing it for whatever reason too. It's terrible. Gabby Garcia, Jesus. Is she bad though? I get what he means. Like, she's not a good fighter, and it's not like good MMA. But
But I don't know. I'll tell you this: the storyline of what they're doing with Gabby Garcia right now, with having her like foul and getting all these DQs recently, I don't like that storyline. So let's change that up. Let's have her beating people and destroying them more often. I really probably think that Gabby Garcia really can't fight. I hope that they're building her up to fight King Reina as like a battle of the undefeateds at some point next year, and that Reina beats her. That would be awesome.
I think Rizin, you look at Rizin and you say, how, like, do they have any storylines? Do they have any plans? Because on the very outside, you just think they're throwing random fights in there and they're sort of just playing it by ear.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you don't watch every Rizin, if you don't watch every Rizin, you don't think there's a plan. There's clearly a plan. The plan actually, and why I don't think Rizin's captured an American audience like Pride did, was that this plan actually is way more focused on capturing a Japanese audience and like making Japanese stars. So, you know, Riena's a major part of that plan. I think definitely Horiguchi, definitely Reina. So if you watch all these cards consecutively, specifically the ones that people are skipping and being like, oh, it's not worth it to watch it, well, you're missing out on the people they're building. You know, Tenson's being built as a star. There's all these, you know, is it actually going to culminate into something? Well, we're still kind of waiting to see that.
It is interesting though, because I think what we were talking about earlier is them going from, say, 2015/2016 rise into 2017. We're moving from the big Pride stars, Mirko Krokop, Wanderlei Silva, the King Mo, Fedor. Like, it's still hard to believe that Fedor was on one of these cards in 2015, and now it seems almost unthinkable that that would be the case. Almost as if he's too good for Rizin, if that makes any sense. But they've definitely moved from the big stars that we all know, that the American fans know specifically, to making the Japanese audience care by building up these prospects. So they're sort of letting the American audience go away in a way a little bit, but maybe that will work because they're in Japan. So
I actually think this makes sense for them, and I hope that next year they re-inject the it again with the old Pride stars and get as many of those. Because if they did what they did with had with like Fedor fighting, and even just that heavyweight Grand Prix, as silly as it was, you know, now with the stars that they've created on their own and cultivated, it's going to be a much better product and probably something people will be more attracted to. I don't know. At the end of this, Rizin's kind of a promotion that's doing it really smart, and they're building their stable up slowly. 8 events. I think it's been like 3 years now that there's been Rizin. So, it kind of all makes sense. And I think that we'll see better things in 2018 and 2019 from Rizin.
All right, so I'm just going to throw out a couple random predictions. You sort of will tail off that. So I think Kyoji Horiguchi will win the whole tournament, the Bantamweight Grand Prix. I think Tenshin probably wins the weird kickboxing tournament. It seems sort of tailor-made for him. I don't know if this would be an upset, but I actually think Manel Kape has a good chance against Ian McCall, simply because McCall hasn't fought in almost 3 years. He seems broken. I don't think he has much left in the gas tank. The injuries, and just he's getting older too. I think Kape might be able to crack him.
Well, he is, right? He's fighting at bantamweight. He really is a natural flyweight, Ian McCall. So he's at a danger of being the smaller man and being susceptible to punches. Hasn't fought for a while. So this is a risky fight, but I really hope Ian McCall wins. You really want that matchup on Saturday between Gucci and Ian McCall.
And that would be the semifinal, right?
Exactly, yeah.
It's too bad that they didn't shape it up where there's a chance McCall Horiguchi would be the final, just because that would draw a bigger audience than Horiguchi versus anyone else.
Yeah, I think the idea might be, though, hey, let's guarantee that fight. Because, it's Ian McCall. He could get injured.
I guess so. Yeah.
I don't know.
Because look at when Wanderlei Silva versus Mirko Krokop was supposed to happen, we were sort of saying the same thing, and then it ended up not even happening. So it goes to show you
some old bullshit, right?
A lot can happen. So I think King Reina probably beats Cindy Dendois.
Yeah, hopefully, right? It's a test to see if she's actually, been brushing up on her skills, because Cindy's no slouch. She's a veteran. She's not going to, take this line down. She's coming for a win.
Rizin has done a good job of bringing in UFC veterans that don't have huge names but have that UFC experience, like someone like Anthony Burchak, Darren Cruikshank, and now Cindy Dandois, and not quite feeding them because Darren Cruikshank has had some success. I think Burchak has had maybe one Rizin win, but they're losing more often than not, it seems, as of late, and they're building up their Japanese stars or fighters with these sort of former UFC fighters.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. They're probably getting guys, especially, you're talking about guys who are 155 pounds, guys 135, 100, 45. There's a lot of guys in there, and hot prospects overseas, probably have trouble getting fights because guys know, like, hey, you're going to probably lose to that guy, and it's not really too much worth it for the name. Yeah, Anthony Burchak, I think, has yet to secure victory in Rizin. Darren Cruikshank definitely won a fight, but then lost one. They're not fighting slouches over there, and I think Rizin's smart on what guys they're picking. They have a good look. They look, prototypically American, and it looks really good for their young prospect fighters to have a win over a guy like that. It looks great to their audience and helps them, build stars.
Alright, well, okay, so Cabby Garcia, I'm going to say she actually wins this fight. I don't think it'll be a DQ or a no contest. Agree?
Yeah, she's going to pound some 55-year-old woman to death. It's silly.
Mirko Cro Cop's going to get another win. He's looking bigger than ever. That's tomorrow. That's on Saturday. So now we're sort of moving on to the 31st card.
We'll move all over. Yep, this is the card Saturday to Sunday. Mirko Cro Cop should win, right? He's fighting Kosaka, who is a veteran of his own right. I don't really, think that Mirko Cro Cop looking beautiful and and back on the HGH, has much for him. Kosaka, what did he do? He's been fighting for Rizin for the last probably couple of the tournaments. He's been doing underdog, or maybe he was on the main card, or I don't know. But
anyways, Cro Cop's gonna knock him out. Reina is gonna win the Atomweight tournament.
Oh, Kosaka lost to Baruto. Do you remember Baruto?
I do, of course.
Come on, man. Yeah, I forgot. Okay. Yeah, sorry. What did you say?
Reina is going to win the Atomweight tournament.
Reina wins the Atomweight tournament. Yeah, definitely.
And then
some of our competition's really, really weak.
Yeah. And the only other thing, does Takanori Gomi win?
Yeah, does Gomi win? It's not a gimme.
No.
Yeah, Yachi can actually fight. And Gomi, if you've watched his trajectory in the UFC, I think you have to have a lot of pause for concern. Yachi won and knocked out Darren Cruikshank. He won in his next Rizin fight after that. I think that was only a couple months ago. So he's on fire right now. This could be a very, very bad night for fans of the Fireball Kid.
Takanori Gomi back on the juice. I'm not sure that's enough. I'm gonna pick Yachi here. As you said, he KO'd Darren Cruikshank. That's a decent win. That's a notable win. So I'm gonna go Yachi here for, I don't know, the betting odds for this fight wouldn't be out, but I'm gonna say he'd probably be slightly favored, but still, I mean, I think Gomi might get a bit more respect from pickers and bettors just because there's the chance of him being back on the needle, so to speak.
I love how uncomfortable.
That was a terrible.
You're like a needle injected.
Okay. Yeah. Everything good for Rizin? We are done.
Gomi is a plus 400 underdog.
Okay.
Yachi's a -6.
Interesting. All right, let's move on to UFC 219 going down this weekend, this Saturday night, December 30th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. We got Chris Cyborg, Holm in the main event. UFC Women's Featherweight Championship is on the line. Of course, Chris Cyborg won the vacant title with a win over Tonya Evinger this past July. Prior to that, Jermaine Duranamy beat Holm, who is, of course, fighting again for the featherweight title to win the inaugural title. And then we know what happened with Duranamy. She literally ran away. So we have that happening in the main event. We have Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Edson Barboza in the co-main. Terrific fight. Perhaps the #1 contender fight. The only sort of setback is that the fact that Conor McGregor is the champion. We still have Tony Ferguson as the interim champion. So who really knows what's going to happen at the top of the lightweight division? Carlos Condit is coming back. He's fighting Neil Magny. Cynthia Cavillo is fighting former champion Carla Esparza. We have Tim Elliott. He was supposed to fight 2 weeks ago. That fight was canceled. Now he's fighting newcomer Mark De La Rosa, Miles Jury, Rick Glenn. Pretty fun card. 10 fights. It should be a quick night, but I don't mind that.
Yeah, 10 fight cards. Let's knock them down to 8. Make them even smaller. More digestible fight cards. I'm in favor of that. 13 fights. That's too many fights, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, in agreement. What do you think is the most compelling fight here on this card?
Most compelling fight, I guess you got to go Nurmagomedov Barboza, right?
Yeah, just because of the question surrounding Khabib Nurmagomedov. I don't know. I'm a bit more old school, so I got more. I'm more interested to see Carlos Condit fight in some weird way, right?
I'm very intrigued by the fight, but as far as like it being close and like either fighter could win.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's Neil Magny, right? But
he's not a bad fighter by any means, obviously.
No. I understand how Khabib has more relevance in what's happening in MMA right now.
No, it's not even just that, but like I give Barboza a pretty good chance to go against Khabib. I may be more confident in Condit beating Magny than I should be, but
I think you are. There's a lot of ways Carlos Condit could lose.
Well, just the fact that he could be done, and we don't know that yet.
Yeah. But a lot of competitive matchups on this. You know what? I should bring up the odds on this card because I would bet more often than not everyone's within like a minus 200 of each other.
You would be surprised. There are bigger favorites than you would think.
Okay, let's look at this. Holly Holm is only a plus 310. So you can get, $3 for every $1 you bet on Holly Holm. That makes sense to me.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh my God, look at this. You're right. No one's really close. We got a minus 280, a minus 250, minus 216, a minus 325.
Who's that?
For Khalil Roundtree over Mikhail Oya. Jesus Christ, people. Olakova, whatever, Kivich.
That's a tough one.
That's a rough one. What do you got on that?
I think Khalil Roundtree Jr. knocks him out in round number 1. This is probably the more confident pick of the night.
Let's say his name.
Oh, you want me to try and give it a go at that one? Okay. Michael Oleg Zhikzik.
I appreciate it. I'm going to give you a solid. No, I was going to say a solid C. Okay. That's all right.
It probably
is this his UFC debut? Because I can't remember him fighting ever before. Okay. So yeah, the more Polish fighters that come in, we're gonna have to learn to just rifle off these weird sounds.
We learned Yevgeny Jacek and Karolina Kowalkiewicz, so if we can learn those, we can learn anything.
I'll occasionally say Kowalkiewicz still.
Yeah, once in a while.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do?
Just say Karolina.
So there aren't. I thought that this was going to be highly contested, and that there wasn't going to be too many big favorites. There's huge favorites all across this board, it seems.
Certainly. Where do we want to start? Do we want to start main card and sort of work our way down, maybe?
Yeah, let's work our way down, maybe.
Okay, so Carlos Condit, Neil Magny. You said there is some room for concern, just as far as picking Natural Born Killer. Why and who ultimately do you side with?
Oh, okay. So we in the Carlos Condit fight, I think Carlos gets it done. I think I'm jaded though because he has such great nostalgia value. Neil Magny isn't as good on his feet and is clearly at a striking detriment, but he seems like he should be taller. Although when you look at the stats, Carlos Condit's only like an inch shorter, I think. But I think he'll be the longer fighter, and I hope that doesn't give Carlos too much trouble, and he's able to get inside and not get taken down too. That's of course always the huge question mark with Carlos. So if that can happen, Carlos is going to win, and I think that's what happens. So I wouldn't bet on Neil Magny.
I agree. I'm picking Natural Born Killer. The thing is, he is way better on the feet, and Neil Magny could take this to the ground. His grappling is decent. And that's sort of the way to beat Carlos Condit in a lot of his fights. We saw Demian Maia. I mean, you can't compare Demian Maia and Neil Magny whatsoever, but if you're going to try to beat Carlos Condit, probably look for takedowns, look to get him down. That's sort of your best path to victory for most fighters, it seems. But I think this is going to be a stand-up fight, and I think that's where it favors Condit. As I said, I think he does pretty well on the feet. I think he lands some elbows, lands some good boxing. He knee here and there, maybe a kick. I think he'll be able to chop Magny down with some shots and just perform pretty well. I expect a good performance from Carlos Condit. I'm not sure he gets the finish. Magny can be tough. Sometimes he does lose by knockout. We've seen that, but gut feeling is Condit by decision. But obviously the big concern is Carlos Condit who he once was? And probably not, but I think he's still good enough. But you have to really pause for a second and say, okay, this guy's taken a year and a half off. He is some part owner of a coffee shop. He has other things going on.
That's a major concern for you. You're like, this guy's got a coffee shop. His head's not in the game.
Well, it's kind of true. It's
I don't know. It's a coffee shop. It's not like something that'll consume every moment of your day.
Yeah, he says he likes his coffee. He might be there every second of the day. You don't know Carlos Condit.
Yeah. He did take time off the gym, right? He completely left it. So. Yeah, and didn't fight. Who knows? It might be good for him. It'll be interesting. Yeah, but I don't know.
I mean, he came back from a long layoff after the Thiago Alves fight and it was okay. So before the Thiago Alves fight. So I'm picking Carlos Condit by decision. A late TKO wouldn't surprise me. Cynthia Calvillo taking on former UFC strawweight champion, inaugural strawweight champion, Carla Cookie Monster Esparza.
Are you into the Calvillo hype train?
A little bit. I'm tempted to go with the underdog here in Esparza, but I can't quite pull the trigger.
Are you? Yeah. That is where I'm at too. I'm not sure that she's going to beat anybody really, but I think she can definitely beat Carla Esparza. Who did Carla Esparza just beat? God, after she lost to Randa Marcos, and then
Moroz, maybe.
Yeah, sure, Marina Moroz, and Calvillo beat Calderwood and Pearl Gonzalez, which is meh as a fight, and Amanda Cooper, which we kind of know the story there too. I hope she's evolved fighter. She looks like someone who's dangerous and could be entertaining. So I hope that she evolves to the next level. I hope they don't feed her to people too early. Esparza is already kind of getting up there. You're getting a major name at 115 if you beat Carla Esparza. I think she gets it done though, and she probably gets it done pretty violently.
Really?
I think so.
Okay.
Because I think that Carla's gonna try to work a wrestling-based game. But didn't she? I feel like Carla Esparza. I'm forgetting that she might have boxed more in her last fight. But anyway, I think that
it was actually Cynthia Calvillo that boxed more against Calderwood. Did she not?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would make sense. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that Carla gets her takedown stuffed, and then it's the Joanna Jędrzejczyk story again. She's just going to be, standing on the outside of the jab. Yeah, probably not as violent. So let's see if Cynthia's striking is cleaned up. Let's see if her gas tank is there, because these girls just don't get, they don't finish really all that bad, or all that much rather.
Yeah, I'm going with Cynthia Calvillo. Not super confident. I think Carla Esparza has a decent path to victory. It's the same path to victory in all of her fights. Take the fighter down, hold them down, control them, grind them out. Kind of be boring, but efficient, effective. It works. And can she work that against Cynthia Calvillo, who is a very, very good grappler? Every time she was on the ground with Calderwood, she did well. And there was sort of her fight IQ that made that fight close. I think Calvillo can get up from bottom if she is taken down. I think she is able to scramble and get into decent positions on the ground. I think the grappling, although very different styles, Calvillo is a lot more dynamic, submission-based, Esparza is very more wrestling-based. I think they sort of neutralize that, and it turns into they can grapple a little bit, but I think it's pretty equal. But on the feet, I think Calvillo has a big advantage. Carla Esparza, she working at Team Oyama is probably helping her striking, but we haven't seen major improvements, so I can't really say, I think Esparza's striking is so much better until I see it. So as of right now, she is not a good striker, and I think Calvillo just has more ways to win. So I'm picking Cynthia Calvillo, but if Esparza grinds her out for 3 rounds, I honestly won't be shocked. Dan Hooker, Mark Jacasey, pretty fun one at 155. This was, of course, supposed to be on the prelims, But unfortunately, John Lineker had a tooth injury that requires surgery. I have a toothache too, and his fight against Jimmy Rivera is not happening. And unfortunately, Marlon Rice, that whole thing happened. We don't need to get into that, but long story short, no opponent was found for Jimmy Rivera. He's off the card. Dan Hooker, Mark Diakiese, who is the pick?
I'm giving it to Mark Diakiese. I know that he lost his last fight, but before that, god damn it, he just seemed like a prospect that was going to set the world on fire. He's knocking dudes out over in UFC Europe. And he seemed like a guy who had a lot of hype behind him before that too. He had knockouts in Bama that you would always see popping up on the internet. So I think that Mark Diakiese is going to be able to do something like that against a guy like Dan Hooker. You remember Dan Hooker's got to travel over to Las Vegas. And I know he's coming off the win against Ross Pearson, but I really never saw much from him that I thought like, hey, you're going to be an established prospect. Hasn't Dan Hooker been fighting in the UFC since he was something ungodly like 16 years old? I know that, when you get kids in there young, it's supposed to be like, hey, they'll develop into such great fighters. But sometimes you expose people too early and they take losses that they shouldn't. They take too much damage. And I think that might be the case here with Daniel Hooker. He might have been able to evolve into a better fighter than he was, but he was exposed to the UFC probably too early. All I can, recall is Yair Rodriguez teeing off on him. As I think about, being fed to the wolves a little bit. So I think Mark Diakiese gets this done. It's a good showcase for these two guys. This does not belong in a pay-per-view portion of a fight. You should never be having to pay money to see Mark Diakiese fight Daniel Hooker. But, it is a good fight, so I'm happy for the guys to get kind of a showcase.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I think Dan Hooker falls against guys that are very explosive and have a lot of volume, and that's kind of what Mark Diakiese is all about. I think Diakiese basically just outpoints him on the feet. I think he can work a wrestling game if he wants to. I don't think he does. I think if anything, Hooker might be able to look for some submissions on the ground as well. I think his submission game is rather underrated, but if I had to bet on where the fight takes place, it's mostly just a stand-up fight, I think, and that's one that Diakiese just will outpoint Hooker in and get the win. So Mark Diakiese, the Bone Crusher, will get back into the winning column, although, I'm tempted to go Hooker. He's an underrated fighter in general, I think. He's a good striker. He has knockout power, a lot of different weapons in the tool bag, and it's a close one. I think it could be fight night, but I am going Diakiese for the W. Co-main event, Khabib, Edson Barboza, who walks away a lightweight, in the lightweight title mix.
It's got to be Khabib, right? I just can't not see Khabib doing Khabib things, because every time we see Khabib, he does it. He grinds out these dudes. One day he's going to show up looking old, and he's going to get beaten badly, and everyone's going to go, oh, how didn't we see this coming? But I don't think today's that day. I think Khabib Nurmagomedov just does his thing. Works chain takedown, chain wrestling, and then beats and just pounds him out with superior groundwork. Can you convince yourself for a Barboza win?
It came close, but not enough.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at. It seems like we always do this. Oh, but if he's standing with them, but he won't be standing with them. It won't matter. I think that ultimately when Khabib wants to, here's the trick of Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's good enough on his feet to be able to get you in, thinking about his hands. And as soon as that happens, boom, he's in on takedowns. And that's kind of where he finds success.
I kind of disagree. I don't think Khabib is a good striker whatsoever, but no, he's just so good of a grappler where he's able to get inside.
But think about even the Michael Johnson fight. Michael Johnson's a really good striker for the division, and he was losing those exchanges, but like enough that he was still in it enough that Michael Johnson had to think about what strikes Khabib was throwing.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess he was sort of. I don't think it was like overwhelming Michael Johnson by any means.
No one's saying that, but like even if you just have to concentrate on because someone's throwing with power and there's consequences to their shots and they're hurting you, you have to be like,
no matter how bad of a striker you are, your opponent is always going to be thinking about your striking, because if you don't, anyone has knockout power. Khabib could knock someone out on the feet. It could happen.
Yeah, I think he's definitely, probably connected, at least in some of his fights, right? He must have wobbled someone. Can you remember a fight where Khabib Nurmagomedov has wobbled anybody?
No.
Yeah, I can't either.
Okay,
yeah.
so
it must have happened though.
The thing with this fight is that Edson Barboza has worked on his grappling defense a lot, and what I mean by that is not necessarily defending submissions on the ground, but his sort of Achilles heel in a way in his whole game has been pressure him, don't give him space, and you'll beat him. He's worked on that. He still needs space. He thrives in a lot of space, and that's why the Pettis fight was so good for him. But Khabib is just so good at closing the distance, getting a double leg takedown, securing takedowns, and getting on top and ground and pounding and submissions and everything. He's everything on the ground. When it comes to wrestling, he is one of, if not the best wrestler in MMA. And so if he can get inside Barboza, he is going to win the fight. Barboza needs to keep his distance at all costs. He cannot make many mistakes. You can't make mistakes against Khabib, or else you'll be on your back and not quite unconscious, but
you've lost at least a round.
At least a round. I think Barboza can make it close quick or early on, because Khabib was pretty okay with striking against Michael Johnson early on, and then he realized, I'm getting tagged up a little bit. Okay, let's start working my game, and he did. He basically just there was a switch in his mind that said, okay, now let's go wrestle, and within 30 seconds, Johnson was on his back, and so I see it being a kind of a similar fight. I think Barboza in 2017 or now 2018, I guess, or soon, is a better fighter than Michael Johnson, but it's kind of a bad matchup for both fighters. Barboza is not good under pressure. Khabib is going to pressure him and get him to the ground. And Barboza he does have good takedown defense, but it's just not going to be good enough. Khabib by decision. I don't think he stops Barboza. And again, if Barboza points him on the feet, keeps it standing, I won't be that shocked, but it'll be a little surprise factor, I think.
No, it'll be a huge surprise. It'll be an awesome moment. It's unprecedented what Khabib's been able to do. 24-0 against the high-level competition that he's done. It's a huge feather in anyone's cap to beat Khabib Nurmagomedov at this point.
Sure. All right, main event time. Chris Cyborg, Holly Holm for the UFC Women's Featherweight Championship. The Cyborg continued the winning streak. She has one loss on her record, but that was a long time ago. Does she retain the featherweight title for the very first time, or does Holly Holm become the first women's fighter in the UFC to win two titles or a title in two divisions?
Oh, God, no. I think that Cyborg's going to cyborg Holly Holm. It's going to be bad, probably. Think about it. Holly Holm has beat who in the last, 3 years? Betch Correia?
Legendary Betch Correia and the somewhat legendary Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey. Losing a fight to Miesha Tate. Losing a fight to Shevchenko. Losing a fight to Jermaine Durandamy, and that fight wasn't close. I don't care what people say. So, no, I don't think that Holly Holm's going to have what it takes. Holly Holm is... I'll give this to her. She's a counter striker, and you'd think that Justino is just going to crash her, that Cyborg's just going to rush her and beat the shit out of her. But I think that Cyborg's definitely gotten smarter as a fighter and smart enough to size her up, and then before she makes, just some follow-up shots after she stuns Holly. And Holly's been fighting for a long time. People forget that she had a whole boxing career before this, one where she was knocked out viciously. The year's got to be catching up with Holly Holm too. Cyborg is a massive favorite. She's a minus 340. So I'm with everyone else in the world when I say that I think Cyborg's going to destroy Holly Holm.
I'm picking Holly Holm.
You're so dead wrong. You couldn't be worse. Why do you think that she's going to be able to do that?
I think.
By the way, Cyborg winning by KO or TKO, which is still a very good bet at minus 115, near even money on Cyborg by KO. Buy that, people.
I mean, the thing is, I still think that's a good bet because I'm not confident. Obviously, if you're picking Holly Holm, you are very not confident, and if you're picking Chris Cyborg, you're probably.
How do you think that happens, though?
I think the counter striking really makes this not a favorable matchup for her, but I think she can do enough to get the W. And I think she's able to
Well, which
avoid
is like her volume, like where she throws strikes like in dances.
kind of like I think she's actually slightly overrated in the boxing department. I don't think her hands are terrific. I think she's a good striker. I don't think she is super sharp on the feet, but I think her leg kicks, her body kicks, head kicks, I think she can sort of chop Chris Cyborg down a little bit. I think Chris Cyborg, she was a lot more patient against Tanya Evinger, and that actually, like, it made it a less great performance and less like brutal, vicious, dominant performance. But that actually is good fighting Holly Holm, because now Holly Holm is going to be, because she's a counter striker, and if Chris Cyborg doesn't come forward as much, we might see a bad fight, but that favors Chris Cyborg. But I have to bet on Chris Cyborg being Chris Cyborg for a lot of the time, coming forward, looking for the knockout, looking for hard shots, and maybe even pressing her opponent up against the fence, looking for takedowns even. And I think that favors Holly Holm. I can't say this looks like the Ronda Rousey fight, because Ronda Rousey is a bad striker and Chris Cyborg is not. But I think we see the same vibe in a way. I think it's a lot more competitive, but I think Holly Holm is able to avoid a lot of Chris Cyborg's offense. And as she's moving away, because keep in mind her footwork is very good, I think she's able to land leg kicks and just outpoint Chris Cyborg. So the preacher's daughter and new, it's a bit of a risk taker, a bit of a risky pick, going out on a limb in a way. But
I don't know how honest you're being with yourself. I think Cyborg might just cyborg the fuck out of her too. There's always that. Like, aren't you just worried at some point that she just like? Because think about Cyborg.
She's a beast. Think about she's
Cyborg's top game. What if Cyborg gets on top of Holly Holm?
Then it's over. Then it's over.
What? You know that's very likely to happen at some point here.
I know.
You know, this is gonna be rough. I think Cyborg's gonna destroy Holly Holm. I think take everything Nicholas just said and ignore it. That's what's going to happen in the fight.
Pretend I'm not here. You also, though, have a lot of money on Cyborg inside the distance. So
come on, Nicholas.
You have begun to convince yourself.
I'm sold. I drank the Kool-Aid.
You also have some money on Miles Jury, don't you?
Yes, Miles Jury, who I think is a decent sized bet, and then a little bit on our boy Luis Smoka. That's the underdog pick of the card for sure.
I think you're 1-1 on those. Do you want to guess which ones?
Okay. Just be vague about who.
Take a guess.
Well, you're a Team Alpha Male boy, so I'm gonna say that you're going Rick Glenn.
Rick Glenn and Louis Smolka.
Why do you like Rick Glenn?
I think the grappling actually can do. I think he can do good things with Miles Jury. Working at Team Alpha Male, I think, has done wonders for him. That fight, his last opponent, who was it again? The up and coming guy from Canada who just got demolished. Guy who beat Sam Sicilian in his debut. Gavin Tucker. Rick Glenn beat the crap out of Gavin Tucker. You remember that?
Oh, Gavin Tucker. Yeah, he was.
I don't think that happens if Glenn wasn't at Team Alpha Male. I think working at Team Alpha Male has done very good things for Rick Glenn. I think he's a very good fighter now. It's still worrisome that he went to a split decision with Felipe Nova in 2017. But I think he's getting better. I've never been super high on Miles Jury. I just don't see what a lot of people have seen in the past. I think he's a good fighter, obviously, but I think Rick Glenn is making the improvements, and I think he gets the job done. That's pretty much it. Tim Elliott, Mark De La Rosa is actually pretty fun, pretty competitive. Marvin Vettori probably gets another win. Roundtree Jr., and that's pretty much the card.
Miles Jury is most famous for, in my mind, still to this day, being a douchebag after beating Takanori Gomi.
I don't remember. I remember the fight. I don't remember what happened after.
And like the post-fight range, he goes, I don't mean to sound an asshole. I don't mean to sound like an asshole. But, you know, it was kind of easy. I was just like, whoa, I'm in here. I'm beating Takanori Gomi.
Of course it's easy to beat Takanori Gomi.
Oh, fucking Miles Jury. What a goof.
Well, I guess first one doesn't get it for Miles Jury. three years too late, but better late than never.
Yeah, how dare you? How dare you be first?
Let us move into Gets It Doesn't Get It. We will start things off with Bellator. They just recently parted ways with longtime color commentator Jimmy Smith, who had been with the Viacom-owned organization for 9 years, a long time. I was 6 years old when Jimmy Smith first started out with Bellator. Let that sink in a little bit. Jimmy Smith, is no longer with Bellator. According to Ariel Helwani of MMA Fighting, his contract ran up and they failed to come to new terms. And so that is that. Bellator, get it? Do they get it or not get it?
Bellator does not get it, of course. Jimmy Smith is come on, don't you get MMA fans at some point? We're a nostalgic bunch. We don't like change. Jimmy Smith is probably the best thing going on in a Bellator broadcast at any given moment. He, I don't know, added a layer of like credibility to the whole thing. It seemed like a guy who knew what was happening. He wasn't bullshitting us. Yeah, so I'm going to miss Jimmy Smith in Bellator broadcasts. It honestly diminishes their product in my eyes.
I have to agree. Jimmy Smith is very, very good at what he does. He's a great color commentator. It's going to be hard to find a better person for the job. I think I'm just trying to think. TJ DeSantis is play-by-play, but if he was color, that'd be a great addition to Bellator. Maybe even bringing someone like Robin Black, who I think is a little underrated. There's some good options, but Jimmy Smith is very, very good at what he does. He's very seasoned. He's been doing this for a long time, and I'm happy that the UFC already seems to have interest, according to Helwani. I think he'd be a good addition to the octagon, to the UFC, but we'll have to see what happens. But for now, Bellator does not get it.
Jimmy Smith in the UFC would be major. I think that would be awesome.
I think it'd be great, yeah. Next one, Ali Abdelaziz, of course, the owner of Dominance MMA, the manager, we all know. He apparently is sort of behind the whole Marlon Rice, Jimmy Rivera thing. Marlon Rice went out on social media after John Lineker pulled out of that fight that was supposed to happen this weekend at 219 and said, I am down, I'll even give extra pounds, 138, let's do it. Rivera, and it seems like this is, and then already fight, and then turned down a fight at 145 pounds. This has been making Marlon Rice look very bad because he said he was down and then he turned it down multiple times, according to Jimmy Rivera. And this seems to be sort of thanks to Ali Abdelaziz because he is behind the Twitter accounts of many of his fighters, if not all of them. He is behind Marlon Rice, and let's just say that being an agent doesn't always mean you're great at PR. He's made Marlon Rice look very bad. Does Ali Abdelaziz get it or not get it?
Hey, Ali Abdelaziz hardly ever gets it.
Yep.
This is the instinct of wanting to control fighters' Twitters and just how badly he handles doing it. It's not like he gave it to professionals or even like a fan who's just dedicated to doing it and like keeps in the same voice and thinks about it. Half the time he's posting his own tweets as these guys and mixing up his accounts. He's got to get his tweet deck game on, you know? He's like, when I get too drunk and I forget to turn off Mizzle Easy and I tweet out something to to the whole gang. Yeah, Ali Abdelaziz, God, what can you say? Guy's kind of a mess. He is the living embodiment of what MMA is. This is what we've allowed ourselves to become. Ali Abdelaziz, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, Abdelaziz, sorry, not really sorry, actually. You do not get it. Olawale Bamboshe recently went on Twitter, I think yesterday and today, saying he is no longer a UFC fighter after losing to Alessio Di Chirico by a brutal knockout in Winnipeg a couple weeks back. He was released from the UFC, third straight loss, but he also went on, he just vented for hours and hours. He blasted Dana White. He blasted the UFC. He talked about low fighter pay. He talked about not wanting to fight anymore because of low fighter pay and just lack of benefits and lack of everything. Let's be honest, Olawale Bamboshe doesn't like sit back and not let him, like he'll speak the truth, but I think a lot of what he says does make sense. I think if you sift through some of the BS, if we're being honest, I think you see a lot of good stuff. Does Olawale Bamboshe, I don't know if you read any of his tweets, but if you did, does he get it or not get it?
I read the Holy War Angels tweets. Yeah, I definitely caught his weird rant. You know, any good-spirited anti-UFC rant, I support just on spirit alone. So, yeah, it seemed a little bit all over the goddamn map. I'm not sure how interested he is in MMA in general, but yeah, he makes some legitimate points. The UFC kind of does chew up and spit out its fighters. And the Holy War Angel is definitely one of those fighters who's been, put into the system, not paid a lot, it took a lot of damage and was sent his walking papers. So yeah, people are going to get embittered. This is MMA. People care a lot.
I agree. Oluwale Bamboshi, you sir, get it. Next one, we got. This is one I'm going to let you explain. Middle Easy versus everybody on Twitter.
Oh my God, right? So I'll explain a little backstory. From my perspective, I spent Christmas hanging out at my in-laws, listening to my father-in-law tell me stories that I've heard several times before, and getting drunk on Christmas champagne. I normally don't drink champagne, but, you know, it's Christmas, so let's celebrate, right? Meanwhile, behind, unbeknownst to me, we had Tommy on, our editor-in-chief over at MiddleEasy.com just decided to go ham on nearly everyone in the whole MMA world. Who do you go after, Nicholas? We had first beef
Mike
with
Russell a little bit.
That came. We had beef with Mike Russell, and then he started. It started with a little article against Izzy Garcia, MMA Insider on Twitter. You're aware of Izzy Garcia, of course, right? He put out something that Khabib Nurmagomedov was taken out of the upcoming fight. You know, he did his normal thing where he posed as Ariel or whatever. So he put up an article on Middle Easy being like, this is fake news. This guy is a sad troll, basically. And I don't know. The guys at MMA Today took a lot of exception to that. So I don't know. What do you think? Were we in the right? Were we in the wrong on that?
Well, I think for the Izzy thing, I mean, it's Middle Easy. Or I mean, anything goes on Middle Easy. I think that was fine. But I'm going to say that I think the whole thing with Mike Russell, actually, I think Middle Easy doesn't get it. I'll tell you why for this one.
Sure.
Middle Easy, whoever was behind it, I guess it was Tommy on the Twitter account, took great offense to Mike Russell posting a screen capture of a photo that's not even owned by Middle Easy. It was the Mirko Krokop one, comparing him now to a UFC weigh-in. And I guess he was sort of like the whole journalist integrity thing. Oh, don't steal photos, like credit me. I don't think Middle Easy gets it here. To go after Mike Russell is a very respected journalist. He's very good at what he does, and I think he deserves a bit more credit than what he does get with the whole Ali Abdelaziz stuff he does and everything. And I don't think Russell was in the wrong with posting that photo. I don't think, I mean, it was a screen capture. It had Middle Easy's thing. Like, if this was a picture Middle Easy owned and Mike Russell basically claimed it for his own, that's so much different. Like, I can't use someone's photo on Bloody Elbow and not credit them and not request use of it, basically. But it was a screen capture of a Facebook post. I think that was okay. So I think to go after Mike Russell for that, I think Middle Easy doesn't get it there.
Well, first of all, I really like Mike Russell, and I really respect the work that he does. But I think what Tommy's point was when he, I think it's being misinterpreted by Mike a little bit. I think what he said was, hey, why don't you just retweet the story? Because our story was exactly about that exact thing. But instead, he went out of his way to take a screenshot of the picture from the story that you clearly got while reading our story, instead of just being like, hey, I'll retweet this cool article that was on MiddleEasy.com. Like, why not give us a shout out? Mike took that as like this challenge on his ethical, behavior and his right to screenshot the photo. I don't think anyone at MiddleEasy.com is ever going to give anyone shit over screenshotting photos on the internet. Like, we've been doing that forever. So it's I don't think that's that big a deal. I don't know. Something in the air in the holiday season, the liquor starts flowing. I'm not going to say that Tommy was hitting the yak, but it's highly possible that Tommy was drunk on liquor and decided that he's going to beef with Mike Russell. And he was just a random bystander. It's like when there's a drive-by shooting. Sometimes random bystanders get hit.
Christmas beef. What better thing than that?
Nothing better on Christmas Day than to just start a bunch of shit on Twitter.
Just a couple more before we get out of here. Dana White today in an interview defended Conor McGregor entirely, and it was really bad. Basically questioning how hasn't Conor McGregor defended the title? Well, Firstly, Dana, he hasn't. I mean, straight up, fighting Floyd Mayweather is not a total different fight. I mean, you saw this, right?
He took offense to the idea that Conor a fact. He took offense to a fact. He goes, "Well, I don't think you could say that Conor's never defended the title," and then like listed off reasons why he's not defended the title. It's just like I don't know. It's almost like Trumpisms filtering into the MMA world. You know,
Dana White basically is Donald Trump.
He really is. He's a proto Donald Trump.
Yep. Dana White, you don't get it. Just
don't get it.
Like most days. Gabby Garcia for weighing in 20-something pounds overweight.
Gets it.
I think so too. Because is she gonna get? Is she gonna get a fine? Probably not. Right?
No, this is all in the script, man. I'm telling you, I really believe it. It's all in the script, baby.
If she fights tonight/tomorrow morning, which I think will happen, unless it's canceled for whatever reason between now 100%. And then, gets it. Because she's going to lose maybe a tiny bit of money, probably not. And she's going to have some huge weight advantage, like 50 pounds and 27 more than she should. Gabby Garcia, you get it all day. Last one. Khabib Nurmagomedov said in a pre-fight interview with Megan O'Leary and then again at today's media day in Las Vegas that he is considering a future drop to 145 pounds. What the hell?
I love MMA. This is the dumb shit that I live for. Fighters saying ridiculousness like that. Oh, God. You get arrested right in front of my door. So Khabib Nurmagomedov might not even make weight tonight, and he's out there talking about 145. That tickles my fancy. You get it. As much as you don't get it, you get it just because you get that saying something that dumb is going to make everyone think about you. I'm
usually with that. I agree that saying dumb things is usually good, but in this case, this is just too dumb. Khabib Nurmagomedov, you don't get it. You're never making 145 in your life. You literally have to chop off your limb, your leg, your arm, maybe even two to make 145 pounds. It's not happening. I bet my life on that. And so Khabib, you did not get it.
Boom.
And we don't have any dumb questions. We didn't get any, right? I don't think so.
It's no holiday dumb questions. It's good. We need to. We've gone over anyhow. We
haven't had dumb questions. I think this is the third or fourth show in a row we haven't had dumb questions. I'm sort of.
It's because I haven't asked the people. Once I ask the people, they give us the dumb questions.
Yes. Next week you better be here.
That's up for debate.
Actually, next week I'll let you know. Next week might not be happening. We'll have to talk.
Reschedule. Okay, I see.
As I said, tomorrow I'm going to California.
Oh, there you go. You're going to be on LA time. What are you going to do?
Yes, sir. All right. Well, that is it.
Let's wrap this up. I got to pee.
Episode 143 of the MMA Circus is in the books. Thank you all for watching. If you're watching the replay, thank you very much as well. Hit us up on Twitter and let us know how off we were with our Rizin night #1 predictions. Because of course, if you're not watching this live, Rizin #1 is probably already over. So we apologize, but nothing we can do about that. Thank you all for watching. Andrew, let everybody know where they can find you on social media and where they can find all your writing and anything else.
I'm now currently the only voice of reason alive at middleeasy.com. I am also found on Twitter at the Clown Kid. I promise a minimum of one beef with any media member at any time. Only one. We're not multiple beefing over at the Clown Kid. Nicholas, peace.
Alrighty, you guys can find me on the Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find all of my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. You can find my other podcast, Before the Battle and Beyond Combat, here on this YouTube channel. Before the Battle we did last night with Jed Meshew. Wesley Riddle was not here yet again. We previewed in depth UFC 219, Holm vs. Cyborg. And Beyond Combat should be back next week. It won't be, though, because I will be on vacation, and it is not going to happen next week. It'll be back the week after. And you can find me on Twitter, as I said. You can find my writing over at Bloody Elbow. Check it out. Thank you to Bloody Elbow for presenting this podcast. The MMA Circus you can find here on YouTube. Go like down here or down there. I'm not sure where it is. Go comment, subscribe to this YouTube channel, the MMA Circus. We would appreciate that greatly. You can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, Google Play, TuneIn, Player FM, Pocket Casts, Podcast Addict, Overcast, and I think a few others, SoundCloud as well. And that's it. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate it, or listening. And thank you all for, thanks again. Enjoy the fights on Saturday or tonight, tomorrow night, whenever you're watching fights. And for Andrew Lawrence, my name's Nick Baldwin, and we're out.